In this lesson, we're going to license F5 BigIP and test the connectivity between the BigIP and the web servers. First, we're going to get the BigIP license from F5 website. Then we will set a new management IP address and apply basic configuration to the BigIP, and finally test the connectivity between the F5 BigIP and the 3 web servers. Here we are on the F5 website. To get the free trial license, we will first go to free trials. We will go with this BigIP Virtual Edition. Get started. And now we're asked to log in. I will log in with my own account. Here is the page to get the trial license. First, we will answer these questions. Then here we can choose which trial license we need. We will use this BigIP Virtual Edition and BigIQ. We will take 2 licenses. Then we will enter these 3 black letters, OTY, and request the license key. Now you can say it says thank you for your interest, and that we will get the licensed emailed to us within the next 30 minutes. While this license is coming, we will go back to VMware and we will start EveNG. So power on. EveNG is up. We can go back to the browser, type the IP address. This is the diagram we set up in the previous lesson. I already added server 2 and server 3, but we need to do some more things. For example, this link, we will delete it. Then we will add another node, which is a switch, a layer 2 switch. Change the icon to a layer 2 switch, like this one, and then save. Then connect the BigIP to the switch on interface 1.2, save it, and then we will also connect these 3 web servers to the switch. Save server 1, then connect server 2 and save, then also connect server 3 and save. Also, this management interface, we connected it before with interface 1.3, and that's wrong, so we will delete this link. And we have to connect it through the management interface, because this is the interface we will use to manage the BigIP. We will save this. Now that everything is ready, we will turn these 3 servers on. So start. Also start the switch and the BigIP. We will open the console of server 3 just to show the configuration we have inside. Server 3 is up. Now we can log in with the username root and the password test123. The IP address is changed over here. If we say IP address, we can see the IP address of server 3 is 10.10.10.3, and the gateway IP address is 10.10.20, which is the IP address we will set for the BigIP on this interface connected to these 3 web servers. I also enabled Apache 2 on those 2 web servers and added different web pages. So on server 2, we have this web page which says web server 2, and the IP address is 10.10.10.2. And on server 3, we also have another web page which is over here. Also says web server 3 and the IP address of web server 3. I also changed the host name of the web servers. You can see over here it's called server 3, and if we go back to server 2, it's also called server 2, and server 1 over here still is not changed, so we will change it right now. First, we will log in with the username root, then the password test123. To change the server's hostname, we have to go to the file where the hostname is saved. So if we say cat etc hostname, you can see that the hostname right now is Ubuntu 22 server. So we will change that nano, and then we will delete this Ubuntu 22 server and type server 1, and then scroll down, and here to exit we will say Control X and then yes to save the modified, and then enter. And now if we read the file again, we can see the name changed to server 1, but the name over here did not change, so we will reboot so that it can take the new host name. Now server 1 is up again, and right here we can see the hostname changed to server 1. We also got the license email from F5. So we will first start with the console and configure the management IP address. Once the management IP address is configured, we will use it to access the configuration utility or the GUI with HTTPS. So here we will log in. The default username of the CLI is root, and the default password is default. Now it's telling us that we are required to change our password, so I will type the current password, which is default, and then the new password, and it's recommended to write a strong password, so we will write the new password and then retype it again. And here it's telling us that the password have been changed. Here we can see it says no license, so we need to start licensing, but before that we will set the management IP address. To start setting the management IP address, we will first type config. Now we have this interface to set the management IP address. We will say OK, and then select IP version for our IP version 6. We will use IP version 4, so we will select that. Then it's asking us if we want to use the automatic configuration, which is an IP address from the range of IP addresses we have over here. But we don't want this. We want to change the IP address because we want the last number of all the IP addresses of this big IP to end with 200. So we will say no, and then we will change from 128 to 200, and then OK. The net mask is /24, so this is right. Now it's asking if we will set a default route for the management IP address. As I said before, we will use the 172.16.0 network to manage the big IP, and my PC, which is hosting EVE-NG, has an IP in that subnet. If we go to CMD and type ipconfig, you can see that my PC have this 172.16.0.1, so they are on the same subnet and we don't need a default route, so we will say no, enter. Now it's asking us for confirmation. This is the right IP address and net mask, so yes. Now we will wait for it to finish and then try to access the configuration utility with the new management IP address. Now it's done. We can try to check the new management IP address. Type tmsh list system management IP. Here we can see that it changed to 171.16.0 and 200. So now we will go to the browser, type https 172.16.0.200. We will show details, wish to continue. And here is the BigIP configuration utility. The default username for this configuration utility is admin, and the default password is also admin, but we changed that just now, so we will type the new password and login. Now we have to change the password again, so we will type the current password and a new password and confirm the new password again, then save. Now we will try to log in with the new credentials, so admin and the new password. Now here we can see again it says that no license exists in this device, and we also have the setup utility, which is going to walk us through configuring the basic configurations of this F5 BigIP. So we will go with this, we will say next. Now we will activate the license. Here we will insert the registration key we received in the license email, so we will copy this. Paste it here and select manual and then next. Now we will copy this dossier, so we will copy all and then copy. Then click here to access F5 license server, so we'll go to F5 license server and we will paste it right here and then say next. And we have to agree to the terms of the license and then next. Now here we have the license. We can download the license by pressing this link, or we can just Ctrl A and copy everything. We will paste it and then next. Next we have resource provisioning, which is basically allocating resources for each of F5 modules. In this course we will only be using LTM, so this is the only one we're going to provision. But if we open right here, we can see that there are multiple options. We have none, we have nominal, minimum, and dedicated. None basically means that the module is disabled. For example, here on ASM it's none, which means it's disabled. With LTM we have three choices. We have nominal, which means that the module will be given minimum resources in the beginning. Then when all other modules are enabled, for example, if you're using LTM with ASM and so on, when all the other modules are enabled, the module will get additional resources from the remaining resources. There is also minimum, which means that the module will be enabled and get the least amount of resources required, and then no additional resources will be given again. And lastly, there is dedicated, where only one module will be running because it will be given all resources like the CPU, memory. It will be all dedicated to this one module. We will just leave it at nominal for now and say next. Then we have device certificate, where you can manage digital certificates. So if you have a signed certificate and you want to deploy it, that's going to be here. You can import it, but we're not going to do this, so we will just say next. And here we can configure the management IP address, but we already did that, so we will not do this. We can also add a host name, for example ltm.lab.local. We can also set the right time zone, Riyadh. We can also set a new password for the root account. So we will set the new password. And type it again. And then next. Here we will start configuring the network configuration, so we will say next. It's asking us for high availability configuration. We will not do this for now, so we will just uncheck this and then say next. Here we will set the internal network IP address. Here you can see it's asking us for the self IP of the internal network configuration. If we look back at our diagram, this is the internal network. So the IP address is going to be 10.10.10.200. We'll come back and type 10.10.10.200. Net mask is going to be 255.255.255.0, and this is the internal VLAN. The VLAN interface is going to be 1.2. This is the interface connected to the internal network, so we will choose 1.2. Tagging is going to be untagged because we're not using VLANs. This is all one network, so it doesn't need to be tagged. Now we will add this, and you can see it's added right here. It says self IP over here because we can have floating IPs too. The difference between the self IP and the floating IP address is that the floating IP can be shared between two high availability pairs, for example, two devices. Let's say you have a setup similar to this where you have two big IPs working together as a high availability pair. Each of them will have its own IP addresses. This is called self IP. It's the IP of the big IP itself. There is also going to be a floating IP address shared between both devices. So the self IP is the IP address of the big IP itself, while a floating IP address is an IP address that two big IP systems share together. Coming back here, we will just press next. Now it shows us the network configuration for the external VLAN, which is basically this network connected to the internet. The IP address is 192.168.100.200. So we'll come back and type the new self IP 192.168.100.200. The net mask is /24. And the default gateway is going to be my home modem IP address, which is 192.168.100.1. The VLAN interface, which is connected, is 1.1, so we will keep it at 1.1. We don't need tagging, and add, scroll down and finish. Now it's done. We can see here it says online and active. We have the new host name showing over here and the management IP address, and we have all these configuration options showing over here. Now we will test connectivity between this big IP and those three web servers. We will open big IP console, and we can see the not licensed is not there anymore. It says active standalone. We will type ping 10.10.10.1, which is the IP address of server 1, and it can ping. We will try to ping server 3, so 10.10.3. We can ping server 3 too. And lastly, we will test server 2, so 10.10.10.2. And it's not working. It says destination host unreachable. So we will try to see what's the problem. So we will go to server 2. Log in with the username and password. And we will check the IP address of server 2, so IP address. And over here we can see server 2 doesn't have an IP address. So we need to check on the interface configuration of server 2. We will go to this etc netplan installer config.yaml. And we can see it's set to DHCP. We didn't change the IP address. We need to change this DHCP, so we will nano, scroll up, and then delete DHCP4, type addresses, and the IP address is 10.10.10.2/24, and the gateway IP address is 10.10.10.200. Now this is it. We will Control X to exit, and then yes and enter. And if we try to look at the file again, we can see the new IP address. Now we will reboot so that it can get the new IP address. Now server 2 is up. We will log in again with the username and password and check the IP address to see if it got the new IP address. And here we can see the IP address changed to 10.10.2. We will also check the default gateway, which is 10.10.200. So now we will try to ping again from the BigIP console. We'll try to ping the IP address of server 2, and it's working. In this lesson, we licensed and did basic configuration for this F5 BigIP, and we also checked the connectivity between the BigIP and the 3 web servers.